We're a Change Labour Party, and yesterday we started the work of changing the country. And as the dust settles on Thursday's result, what is becoming clear for, I think, all to see is the mood of the nation, of the country, what is expected of us, and the mandate that we have to deliver change. It's a mandate not just to govern, although it is certainly that, but it's a mandate that has put trust in us to change the country and to deliver. And it's a mandate to do politics differently, and that change started yesterday as well. I have, as you'll have seen, appointed a cabinet. That was done yesterday afternoon and completed. Some went to the Privy Council this morning to receive their seals, which was a moment in history. We followed that with the first cabinet meeting of the Labour government of 2024. At that cabinet meeting, I had the opportunity to set out to my cabinet precisely what I expect of them in terms of standards, delivery, and the trust that the country has put in them. And yesterday I met Laurie Magnus, the independent advisor on standards, to discuss how we deliver in government. At the cabinet meeting, I also discussed mission delivery, how we would put into action the plans that we had set out in our manifesto, and that we will have mission delivery boards to drive through the change that we need, and that I will be chairing those boards to make sure that it's clear to everyone that they are my priority in government. We also talked about preparations for the King's speech, and I reminded the entire cabinet that we will be judged on actions, not on words. This afternoon, I will continue to make a number of front bench appointments. We clearly on Thursday got a mandate from all 4 nations. For the first time in 20 plus years, we have a majority in England, in Scotland and in Wales, and that is a clear mandate to govern for all 4 corners of the United Kingdom. And therefore I shall set off tomorrow to be in all 4 nations. I shall go first to Scotland, I shall then go to Northern Ireland, then to Wales, and then back to England, where I will meet the First Ministers, not just to discuss the issues and challenges of the day, of course we will do that, but also to establish a way of working across the United Kingdom that will be different and better to the way of working that we've had in recent years, and to recognise the contributions of all 4 nations. On Thursday, we also got a mandate on economic growth, the #1 mission of the Labour government. And so we discussed at Cabinet and have started the work on driving growth and to make sure that growth is everywhere across the whole country so that people are better off everywhere, wherever they live. The principle I operate to is those with skin in the game know what's best for their communities. And that does require us to be bold about pushing power and resource out of Whitehall. And therefore, when I return from the 4 nations, I shall hold a meeting of the Metro Mayors to discuss with them their part in delivering the growth that we need across the United Kingdom. That will be on Tuesday. That will include non-Labour Metro Mayors. There's no monopoly on good ideas, and I'm not a tribal politician. And the principle I operate to, whether it's mayors or other elected representatives, is that where regional leaders want to deliver for their area, then regardless of the colour of their rosette, my door is open and my government will work with them. Later on Tuesday, I shall set off to Washington for the NATO summit. I've already had a number of international calls, as you will know, and as you would have expected, to establish the relations across with other countries, to have really important discussions about Ukraine and other pressing issues. And Washington will be an opportunity for me to have further discussions with some of the leaders I've already spoken to and some that I'm due to speak to. It is, of course, an important summit on NATO. It is for me to be absolutely clear that the first duty of my government is security and defence, to make clear our unshakable support of NATO, and, of course, to reiterate, as I did to President Zelensky yesterday, the support that we will have in this country and with our allies towards Ukraine. So this will be a politics and a government that is about delivery, is about service. Self-interest is yesterday's politics. I want a politics and a country that works for you. Thank you very much, and I will now take a number of questions, starting, I think, with Chris.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. You've said that change can't be delivered by flicking a switch, but plenty of people might want lots of switches flicked pretty quickly. And so I wonder how soon you could actually start delivering concrete change. And if I may, have you unpacked yet? Have you found your way around?
Well, they're two different questions. Look, I'm restless for change, and I think and hope that what you've already seen demonstrates that, not least the appointment yesterday of Patrick Vallance and James Timpson, two individuals who are associated with change and delivery. And it won't surprise you to know that the discussions I had yesterday with them were not the first discussions I've had with them. We've been talking to them for some time about the need for the change that we will put in place. But look, 14 years, it is going to take time, but we've started, we've got plans in place. Up until the election, I was clearly not wanting to get ahead of the election result, but we have been planning for months, hitting the ground running. I have had extensive conversations myself, as has the now Cabinet, with all those that they need to deliver with, which are to ensure that we can hit the ground running and put into place the plans that we need. There'll be further announcements coming over coming days. But that preparation has been extensive over the last 6 months. I've required all of my now Cabinet to have gone through on their brief the decisions that need to be taken, the people they're going to talk to in relation to those decisions. That work has been going on for 6 months or more, and that means we can hit the ground running. But look, it is not an overnight exercise changing the country. Thank you, Chris. I'll go to Beth, please.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, you have won a massive majority, but your vote share is quite low. It's much lower in terms of voter support than Blair in 1997. You talk about the mood of the country. I think you have some ideas as to why. Can you give us one concrete thing that you will promise voters you will deliver in your first 100 days to make them believe the change message? And if you'd indulge us, millions of people saw that exit poll drop. Some of them gasped. What was your emotion when you saw it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Look, the thing that's changed already is the mindset of government. It's a mindset of service, of country first, party second. That's not a slogan. That is the test for all of our decisions. So when submissions come to me from the Cabinet, when I've had to take decisions, which I've already had to, of course, the principle is country first, party second, and that's the driving principle. So that change has already happened. I set out before the election what our first steps will be. We've started work on those first steps. You've seen where Streeting made clear the steps he's already taking to resolve some of the issues that have been unresolved for some time, with a degree of raw honesty as well as to the state of being. So that's the mandate. That's how we go forward. And look, you know, in relation to the outcome on Thursday, it is a clear mandate. We argued for change. We've got that mandate. We've got it in for all 4 nations, and that is really important for us as well. I was pleased to see that exit poll. I didn't believe it until, like everybody else, I stayed up to watch every single result come in, peppered with the speeches I gave, including the one at 5 a.m. at the event that we held. But it was only as the final results came through that I was confident that we'd got to where we needed to be to do the work that we need to do. Chris, I didn't answer the second part of your... As to finding my way around, I've got a basic understanding of the rooms I've used so far here, and that's good, but there are plenty of hidden places I'm yet to discover. And no, we're not unpacked quite yet, but we will be soon, and we'll be moving in soon. But there's a bit of work to do before then. Of course, I'm off to Washington on Tuesday. Thank you very much, Beth. Robert.
Robert Gaston, ITV. Prime Minister, you talk about the need for a reset. One of the lessons of Labour governments is the need to take the tough decisions early. We've already heard from Wes Streeting that, in his view, the policy now of the NHS is that it is broken. If, in the coming weeks, as you go through department by department, you find that things are worse than you expected, are you prepared to take tough decisions early, including possibly raising more from taxation? And then secondly, just on Beth's point about how you've won the biggest majority relative to the size of the vote in history. You said yesterday that your priority would be to govern for those who didn't vote for you. Some 80% of British voters didn't vote for you. That's including those who didn't vote at all. What does that mean in practice, in a sense, for the culture of the government and how you'll govern?
Thank you, Robert. Look, in relation to the tough decisions, we're going to have to take the tough decisions and take them early, and we will. We will do that with a raw honesty. And that's really what sat behind Wes Streeting's description yesterday of the NHS as being broken. It is. Everybody who uses it and works in it knows that it is broken, and we're not going to operate under the pretense or language that doesn't express the problem as it is, because otherwise we won't be able to fix the problem as quickly as we need to. And we'll continue in that vein. There are other issues. Prisons would be an obvious example where other parts of the system are broken, and we're going to have to approach that with a raw honesty as well. And we will take the tough decisions, but that is not a sort of prelude to saying there's some tax decision that we didn't speak about before we're about to announce now. It's about the tough decisions to fix the problem and being honest about what they are. On the second part of your question, it was very important to me to say what I said on the steps yesterday about those that didn't vote for us, because we're a government of service to all people, whether they voted for us or not. And I include within that people who voted Labour for the first time on Thursday, because across the country in many places, people will have voted Labour for the first time, perhaps never having voted Labour before. And I recognise that, and that they've put their trust and confidence in us. And we have to repay that. So we hold them in our mind's eye. People who didn't vote for us need to know that we will serve them, that we will not turn our back on people just because we don't think they voted for us. We'll govern for the whole country. And that's what I meant by what I said yesterday. It's about taking the country forward and doing that, in conjunction with our First Ministers, doing that in conjunction with our mayors and other elected representatives across the areas, so that we can govern for the whole of the country and take the country forward and turn our back on tribal politics and simply picking issues we want to fight just for the party politics of it. That's what's gone wrong, in my view, in the last few years, where priorities are simply set by party advantage rather than country first. And that's an example of what I mean by country first, party second. And that's the approach